Sorry, my recording's going a bit odd. Awesome. So, before we delve too far into our lab time here, I wanted to go over a little bit of your capstone one more time, just because I wanted to do a few more examples of what is acceptable for the capstone. And now a few of us already did it, which is great. But again, for your capstone project part one, reading through the document is very beneficial. But to summarize it, what we're going to be creating in this capstone part one is three different wireframes for a mock-up restaurant that you create. And again, the wireframes that we're creating aren't going to contain text or images or colors. They're going to be very similar to what's given inside of here for your presentation capstone project part one explanation, where it's just types of gray and images and lorem ipsum text or placeholder text that goes in there. And again, you don't need to spend too much time worrying about the items that are going to be there or the type of prices. All I'm worried about for this one is making sure you understand how to create a wireframe and going about making it appropriate for the type of restaurant that you'd like. And I wanted to go over it a little bit more because you'll notice here inside of our capstone part one, we have a few different types of, a few different wireframes here. Two of them are vertical and one of them is horizontal. And I wanted to show off how you can go about maybe recreating one that's vertical to be a horizontal. So I'm going to go to Photopea. And referencing what we knew about the capstone part one earlier, we'll notice that it wants us to use an 8.5 by 11 inches size for our wireframes here. So to get that specific size, if I open up Photopea and hit new project, you'll notice that I have a bunch of options to choose from, but there's one over here called print. And inside of print, there's a very conveniently placed letter size down here at the bottom left that you can click on. And its size is 8.5 by 11 inches. So I can just create that. And now I have my background for my wireframe already set up. So I think like half the work is already done for you from Photopea, which is great. And now the next part is trying to get creative with what you would like to do for this. And again, for your restaurant, your wireframes for your restaurant, you don't need to worry too much about trying to get into the nitty gritty of what's going to be present, of what is going about of what should be in there, but more so just about how it's going to be laid out. So for this one, again, we're going to be focusing a lot on the shapes. And these shapes, again, are the sixth one from the bottom on there. And it usually starts off with just a rectangle that we're working with. But again, if you guys are familiar with your project one, we had that custom shape from project one that we worked on too. So you are able to use any of these as well if you'd like. But it's perfectly okay if you just go ahead and submit like a rectangle a rectangle based one or a circle based one. It's up to you with how you'd like to do it. So now if you're like me and not too creative right away, you can always just go to Google Images and just look up some restaurant menus. Of course, I'll be able to look this up too, so don't copy it verbatim. But this is more so for inspiration here. Let me go ahead and pull one up for us here. Now this is my Google search, and as you can see here, there's lots of different ideas we can go with. But again, we're working with that 8.5 by 11 inch size, so we're not going to be trying to go too crazy with like larger menus. But as you can see here, there's some really nice one where it's like a trifold at the bottom, but the logo at the top, split down the middle. So again, it's up to you guys, but what I would say is definitely give some inspiration to each three versions. I would say don't right away make one that you really like and then kind of submit two ones that you don't really care about. I would say give all three of them some serious consideration, because as you progress in the quarter, you might find that you like it a different way, or you might learn a new skill that makes the other menus look a bit better. So I definitely would say take a look at these more in depth. And for our purposes here, just for the sake of time as well, I'm going to try to do three really quick ones. But definitely, I'm going to try my best to make sure they're not too bad here. But if you notice, I kind of liked that pelican one that was there earlier. Where was that one? Seems like I lost my place here. This one looks okay too. I think. Oh, there it is. Awesome. So this one has a nice kind of logo at the top, and then a line, and then it's a trifold menu in the middle there. So again, I'm not going to copy it verbatim, but you could definitely take some inspiration from these types of ideas and then see what you would like about them. So I'm going to go down here and select my rectangle tool, and then I'm just going to go ahead and drag out a rectangle. And now I have a very like sharp red hitting my eyes, and if I don't want that, I can go and undo this here by hitting Control Z, or I can just go to Edit and Undo. And whenever you're using your shapes or anything like that, you're going to go up here to fill, and inside of your fill, you can change the type of color you like. Because we're making wireframes, gray is perfectly fine. Black is a bit harder on the, I think black would work as well. But really black would look better inside of the gray circle just because it makes it pop out a bit more. But you can also use black circles or shapes with gray text or white text, whatever you'd like. But again, the colors don't really matter as much. This is more so about the layout and design. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag out a shape up here. And then after I drag out my shape, I can go ahead and grab my text tool, and I can click inside this shape here. And after it says the font that I have is loaded, I could go ahead and just type out the word logo. Now you might see that logo is tiny up there in that shape. So what I'm going to do is after I click on the logo object down here, I'm going to go up to my left side here, make sure my type tool is selected. Make sure my logo is selected, and then select my size, and then just going to drag this out a bit. I'm going to make it 100 so it kind of sticks out, but it's not too large. And then after I have that selected, I can select my move tool and go ahead and drag my logo into the center there. Now you'll notice it has a square around it, but that's fine because after you deselect it, it will just be on the gray square there. So that's perfectly fine for here. And again, the logo isn't created yet or anything. I just have my logo up there. And then I can go ahead and select anything I'd like from here. I can make a line. Maybe I can make a line going across down here. Something like that. It's easy. I'll get too into it if I don't check myself here. So I'll hit the logo line across there. It's a bit crooked. Awesome. Just for our example here. And then maybe I want my logo or restaurant name to be there. And then maybe I have a cool little image that I designed for my restaurant, or maybe there's like a hamburger and fries in there. So I can just create a little circle, ellipse. And again, how did I go and get these 3 different shapes? Well, if I right click down here where the rectangle is, I can select from rectangle, ellipse, or line. And parametric shape is a shape that you can drag out like this, and it makes a kind of polygon almost. You can use that if you'd like. Actually, we could try making small shapes around here. Maybe if we'd like something like that. It's definitely up to you, so be as creative as you like. But definitely don't think that you need to fall into like the line by line ordering of stuff. You could definitely go ahead and get creative. Now I'm going to go ahead and drag down a few more lines here to get that kind of trifold idea, or maybe I'll just do a middle one just because I'm getting a little tight on space here. And now you'll notice that I have some more stuff I can work with. So I'm going to grab my type tool again, and then right here, I'm going to type in lorem ipsum. And lorem ipsum, of course, is just a placeholder text. You really don't need to worry about the type of food you're going to be giving or what you would like to do. It's up to you. You can make a fully, like, if there's like a tea place that you like to go to or anything, you could definitely reference the foods. But for our purposes for this capstone project, all I'm worried about is making sure you have the layout okay. So don't worry too much about the text there. After I said lorem ipsum here, I'm going to grab my text tool again, and then underneath it, I'm going to select, and then maybe I'll just say 99 bucks. Oops, I forgot where to put the dollar sign. And then I can just put some dots after it as it's like this a random menu item. And then, of course, I'm going to drag this one underneath here. And then with my type tool selected and this item selected, I can go to my size and make this a bit smaller. Now, of course, restaurants sometimes have many items underneath the one line item. So I can right click on this one and duplicate it a bit, just to save me some time. And then you can see here that I'm kind of getting onto the path of having a menu that's laid out. Now, there's one thing that I really want to talk about here. If I kept going with this and I made a few more layers, let me go ahead and actually do that very quick for an example. Let me make another line item. And then I went ahead. Where is this guy located? There he is. Awesome. As you can see here, as I keep dragging out my line items and getting more and more items placed in, you'll notice that I actually have my layers pane getting massive. And this can be a really big problem because how are you going to figure out which one is what here, right? As you can see, I have a bunch of copies and my naming conventions aren't that good. My lorem ipsum copies doesn't make sense either. So what do I need to do now? Do I go ahead and hide each of these until I find a thing that I would like to do? You technically could, but that would take a ton of time. So again, I would like to really reiterate the usage of folders. And these folders are talked about here inside of your Capstone Project Part 1 explanation, but I don't think it does it justice or it does do it justice, but I just want to show you another example of it, as I just want to show off why it's important to use layers. So if you see here at the top, if I wanted to go ahead and try to hide all of my items, I have to spend a lot of time trying to view all of these. And again, I might hide them just because I want to see how it looks like without them, or if I want to make an edit. So what I can do instead of hiding each of these is I could shift click like we did with our bird and our Frankenstein earlier, each of these images here. And then I can go down to the bottom and there's a folder that's the third one from the right in. So after delete, new layer, you have a new folder. And after I have these items selected, I can hit new folder, and you'll notice now that all of the shapes that were up top are in my new folder here. So now I can minimize my folder, and it saves me a ton of screen space. And if I actually hide my folder, it will hide everything that's up top as well. So you can definitely name this anything you'd like as well. So I could just name this top logo and shapes if I'd like to. And then of course, as I continue on, as you can see here, as I'm adding more and more stuff to my menu items over here, I could do the same on this side. So I can select all of these, make a new folder, and then I can say left menu items or left side menu items. And after I did that, I can show and hide these as well, and it will make it really easy to work with it. So after I created a folder, can I go ahead and add more to it? Of course you can. So if I go up to my lorem ipsum copy, and I make a copy of it here, whoops, it is. If I can duplicate it, it will duplicate it inside the layer right away, but you can also add items into your layer too. So for instance, if you take a look at the layer that's shape 6, or excuse me, my shape 6 down here, maybe I just want to, instead of doing the top logo, I'll keep all of my big shapes together. So what I can do is expand my folder here, grab shape 6, and then I can try to just kind of shove them into the bottom here. And now when I hide my view here, so easy, it actually hides the new item as well. So I would really recommend for your wireframes and stuff to definitely go ahead and try out using these folders and try out messing around with some ideas. Definitely take a look at some restaurant menus as well. There's a ton of them out there, and there's some really cool wireframe ideas you can get. And again, you can do this by hand, but I feel Photopea is a bit easier for it. But you're going to be making 3 different wireframe menus. Now, there's one more thing that I want to talk about here before we wrap up on our lecture, and it's the third wireframe that's given here, which is the horizontal one. So if we took our 8.5 by 11 and made it landscape, how do we do that in Photopea? Well, the way that we can do that, let's just say that I really like my designed menu here, and I kind of want to make a version that's horizontal instead of vertical. What I can do is go up to my image, and then I can go to canvas size, because remember, our canvas is a way of how big what we're like kind of working on. And you'll notice here that I'm working in PX, which is pixels. And I want to make it, just because it's easier in my head as well, make it landscape. So we can click the PX and then go down to inches or IN. And you'll notice that it lines up perfectly of an 8.5 by 11 inches. Now, how do I go about switching this to be horizontal? Well, I can simply just change the All right. I think. Oh, but didn't mute that for